Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of So What You Saying. My name is Tom,
And my name is Sean.
and we are going to rank Iron Maiden's studio albums. Both myself and Sean are massive Iron Maiden fans, have been for close to 30 years now. We've seen them live several times. I personally have almost all of their albums on vinyl, so we're really big fans. But we're going to try and be as impartial as possible when rating their albums. Yeah, so we will be rating these albums in chronological order. So we'll begin with the first album. This might be a controversial opinion, but I think this album is a good album. I don't think it's a great album, and I certainly don't think it's a masterpiece. A lot of the issues I have with this album mainly are to do with the production and the sound of the album. I know Steve Harris himself is not a fan of the production on this album. I also don't particularly like the last three songs on this album, that being Strange World, Charlotte the Harlot, and even the song Iron Maiden, even though I know it's a setlist staple. I think it's the song they've played the most throughout their entire career, but it's a song I can really take or leave. Song highlights, I think Phantom of the Opera is a great song, probably is the best song on the album. I also love Running Free. Prowler's a great song as well. And I also really enjoy Transylvania. I would put it in the good tier. It's not an album I go back and listen to that often.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with you wholeheartedly on that one. I think the song Iron Maiden itself is good live, but like you say, I don't really tend to listen to it all that much, like in isolation, sort of thing. So, I mean, for a first album, it sort of hit the ground running for them quite well. But yeah, I agree on the production. It's not as I don't know, polished as even like Killers is afterwards. So I agree with Steve Harris there with that one. Highlights for me, yeah, Phantom of the Opera, which is just great live and on the album personally. Yeah, like you say, just the last couple of songs I don't really tend to listen to that much, but yeah, I'd say that's worthy of the good the good category.
I think this album goes into the good category, and also this is the only album that has Dennis Stratton as the second
Yeah,
guitar player. So moving on to their second album, Killers. This album to me is one of Iron Maiden's best albums. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. This album is a masterpiece to me. I love every single song on this album. I think it's a huge step up in production. This is the first album they started working with Martin Birch as well as producer. It's also the first album that has Adrian Smith. I mean, I love all the songs on this album, but if I had to pick some standouts, Rough Child, Murders in the Rue Morgue, the Song Killers, Drifters, Innocent in
oh,
Exile, just
yeah.
so many good songs on this album. It's also quite a short album as well. It doesn't take a long time to get through. I think it's about 45 minutes long. I love this album. I think it's a masterpiece. It's also got one of my favorite album covers, Maiden album covers as well. So this album to me is a masterpiece.
The album artwork is the most iconic. From my perspective, don't get me wrong. There's great artworks later on in their career, but to me, just that Eddie with the axe and the way that his hair is and his the street in the background and stuff. I don't think it gets much better than that in terms of the artwork. Yeah, songs are great. Opens up really strongly. Killers, the self-titled song, is just like an assault on the ears in all the best way. Drumming in that song is unreal. The only thing that would stop me from putting in masterpiece is that I don't listen to it as much as some of the other albums, but I'm more than happy to let you stick that in there because it is great. And yeah, I mean, there isn't really a weak song on the album.
Diano just sounds amazing on this
Oh
album.
yeah, he sounds a bit more guttural on
Mm.
this one than on the first one.
Yeah,
Um,
a bit more guttural, has a bit more rasp to his voice, and
yeah.
he also can sing really high notes if he wants
Oh
to
yeah,
as well.
yeah. Big up to Paul Diano, R.I.P.
Okay, so after Killers, Iron Maiden released, you probably may have heard of it, The Number of the Beast. Um,
Oh well, where to begin with this one? Okay, so you've got the introduction of the air raid siren himself, Bruce Dickinson, who's just gone on to be synonymous with the band, obviously. And the drumming from Clive Burr on this album is just he takes it up to another level from Killers as well.
It's so good.
Um, yeah, I mean, for me, it's got one of the greatest, not just Maiden songs, but just metal songs of all time in this album, with "Hallowed Be Thy Name." I literally can't fault that song. I could listen to it all day and I'll not get bored of it. And live, it's just unbelievable. The first two albums are definitely more sort of punk orientated, whereas this is just like it's still got punk elements in it, but it's like this is the sound that Iron Maiden go from then on. Do you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, opening with Invaders. A lot of people they don't quite rate that song, but I think it's a really fun opener. I like Viking lore and stuff, and that's what that's all about. So that's fun for me. Children of the Dam, which is definitely a change of pace, and obviously you've got the title track, which a lot of people used to think that Vincent Price was the voice behind that, but obviously not. But I used to think so myself. I was one of those people who was like, "Oh my god, they got Vincent Price to do this," but apparently he hated metal, so it wasn't him. Yeah, you've got Run to the Hills, which again another classic in their repertoire. The only song that I would say I probably don't listen to as much as the others is Ganglands, but even that's got a great drumming opening intro. So that's not a bad song. It's just personally I listen to the others more. But yeah, I think just for its history and from what I've said before about the songs themselves, it's got to be a masterpiece for me.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you just said. I think it's a phenomenal album. I think Clive Burr in particular I think it's his best drumming he's done on.
Yeah.
This is the final album he recorded with Maiden, but I think this is his magnum opus.
Oh yeah.
A lot of other drummers really cite this album as a huge influence on them. Lars Ulrich, Charlie Benante, Dave
Yeah.
Lombardo. They really hold this album in high regard due to Clive's drumming. Of course, the addition of Bruce Dickinson. I mean, the band really did level up when he joined the band. I love Diano, but Bruce is just on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Standout songs for me are I love Children of the Damned, The Prisoner, and of
Mm.
course, Hallowed Be Thy Name. Great songs. My only nitpick with the album is I don't understand why they open the album with Invaders
Yeah.
when
That's fair.
for for me the Number of the Beast is the perfect opener. I mean,
Mm.
just think about it. You've got that intro from not Vincent Price,
Yeah. Yeah.
followed by that incredible riff,
Yeah.
followed by the introduction to Bruce's vocals, and he's basically allowed to build and build and build to when he's eventually able to release that scream. And it's like, this is our new singer. This is a whole new Iron Maiden. I mean, that would be like one of the best openers to any album ever. But for whatever reason, they chose to open the album with Invaders. I mean, Invaders is an okay song. I can really take or leave it.
Yeah. Fair
But
enough.
I know they were looking at it from a side A, side B point of view back in the day because the Number of the Beast
Yeah.
opens up side B. But in my opinion, Number of the Beast should have opened up side A and Run to the Hills opens up side B. And you've got your two big singles opening either side of the album for you. But like I said, it's a bit of a nitpick. I'm certainly not going to put it any lower than Masterpiece. So I totally agree with you with that tier ranking. Okay, moving on. We have the follow-up to the Number of the Beast, and that's Peace of Mind. This is the album which debuts Nico McBrain. This lineup is what most people would consider the Iron Maiden lineup.
Yeah.
Bruce on vocals, Steve on bass, Dave Murray and Adrian Smith on guitar, and Nico McBrain behind the kit. I don't know if I would put Peace of Mind in the Masterpiece tier. I think it's a great album, though. I think it's a really, really good album. Standout songs for me are Die With Your Boots On,
Yeah.
To Tame a Land. I also really like Sun and Steel. I have a real soft spot for that for that song.
Yeah.
I think The Trooper, no matter how many times I've heard that song, it still sounds amazing. It just gets that adrenaline going. It's just a phenomenal song. I really like Where Eagles Dare. I do think it drags on just a little bit
Yeah.
for my liking. After that solo harmony section. Nico's drumming on that song is amazing. It's just
Oh yeah.
outstanding that he can do that with one foot. Revelations, this may be a controversial opinion. It's never been one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs. When I go back and listen to this album, it's not the first song I tend to listen to. It's kind of towards the back end. So sorry to any fans of Revelations out there. I do think Quest for Fire is one of the worst Iron Maiden songs from what you would consider their classics era.
Yeah.
I think that is frankly, that should have just been kept off the album or released as a B-side to something. I think the production is good, but it's sort of sandwiched between two albums that have, in my opinion, really great production. Fun fact about this album, Steve Harris did not use his signature blue bass to record this album. He used an Ibanez Roadster bass,
Yeah, was
which
that the black one?
you see him playing that bass in the Run to the Hills video and the Trooper video.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. So far, so far we're agreeing quite a lot on this. Yeah, I think it's a great album. It's one of the ones that has grown on me a lot over time as well. Not that I never like disliked it or anything, but I've grown to appreciate songs like "Die with Your Boots On." Like you were saying before, like how do you introduce a new member like with a lot of impact? And Where Eagles Dare is the perfect way that you do that. I think the opening, just Nico is just smashing it from word go. Like you said about Bruce, like this is our singer. They've got obviously like gone to Nico and gone, right, this is our new drummer kind of thing. And obviously Clyde Burr was absolutely amazing, but Nico's just signature style for me, opening that right up. Favorite songs? I mean, that's one of them. Obviously, Dive Your Boots On. Trooper. How can you argue against it? It's one of their best live staples. Like you say, gets the adrenaline going. Going back to like Steve's love of history with the Charge of the Light Brigade. Always like a bit of that, so that's great. The closer. I know there's a few that I'm skipping over here, but the closer to Tame a Land for me is one of their best epics. I think it gets overlooked quite a lot
Oh
by a
yeah.
lot of people. And it's a shame that they've hardly ever played that in their career because I think that's a great tune. I know what you mean about Revelations. I prefer it live. I think it's just got a bit more energy live. Do you know what I mean? They obviously
Mm-hmm,
play it a bit
hmm.
faster as well. But I love Bruce's like vocals on that. I think he's got that kind of it's very soulful kind of vocals on that song. But I agree, it's not like I don't really go back to it that often. Quest for Fire, yeah, terrible song. I mean, musically it's okay, but the lyrics are just ridiculous. When was it a time when dinosaurs ruled
But
the
the
earth?
I've also forgot to mention that the Flight of Icarus and Still Life is also
I
on
was
this
just gonna
album.
say, yeah, yeah. I think yeah, Flight of Icarus is awesome. Again, it kind of has that nice sort of mid pace and then speeds up, and then it just shows you just how much of a nutcase Bruce Dickinson is.
Oh, I love the chorus in that. I love the chorus in that song.
Yeah, and then the
All,
scream
all,
at the end, brilliant.
all those overdubs that he does in the chorus are just crazy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and like you said, the scream. If you listen to the vocal only track of The Flight of Icarus, go skip right to the scream at the end, and just before he does it, you can hear him take this massive breath.
yeah. Oh god, yeah. Like I don't know how he did it. Honestly,
Yeah.
guy's an alien.
Moving on, we have what is often considered the best album Iron Maiden have ever put out, certainly from the classic era. That being Powerslave. Yeah, I think I assume we are both going to put it into masterpiece.
Yeah,
Um, I remember when I first got the first Iron Maiden album I got was The Number of the Beast. But when I heard Aces High and 2 Minutes to Midnight, when it was those songs were rotating on Kerrang non-stop back in the
yeah,
day, and Scuzz and MTV2 when they actually played music videos, I think the production is amazing. I think all the songs, barring one, are really, really good. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, I think that was the first time I was like, my God, they actually wrote a song that's 14 minutes long.
yeah,
And I listened to this track for the first time, and I read along to with the lyrics that were in the booklet that came with the CD. Just a great, great song. And I think the song Power Slave might be my favorite song on the album. Great guitar solos, incredible Tom Sawyer-esque drum fills from Nico,
yeah,
amazing vocals by Bruce, and just great. Steve's bass playing on this album is just unreal. It's on another
yeah.
level. Every single song on this album, his bass playing is just incredible. he sounds like it's almost like he's trying to prove a point. Maybe he heard someone, talking about he didn't rate him as a bass player or didn't think he was technical enough because, my God, this is the best he sounded on any single album that I've made and have put out. The bass is really at the forefront of this album. It's got some of their most iconic album artwork as well.
Yes.
Just a great piece of artwork from Derek Riggs, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
My only gripe with this album, and it's a song I used to really enjoy, but the more I listen to it, the more I sour on it, is the Duelists. I can really take or leave that song now. I know Steve and Nico. I remember listening or reading an interview with Nico like ages ago. He hated that song. Powerslave is a masterpiece for me. Over to you.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I completely agree. This for a long time was my favorite Iron Maiden album. It's still one of them, but I've sort of over time I've sort of flip flopped a couple of a couple of albums for that. Yeah, I think the first Iron Maiden album, I think the first Iron Maiden song I ever listened to or ever heard was 2 Minutes to Midnight, and that sort of just reeled me in immediately when I heard that, and the rest is history with my fandom of this band. Really, yeah, Right with the Ancient Mariner, a ridiculous song. I mean, I think the way that they managed to interpret like that poem and make it almost their own version, or make it their own creation is awesome. And live, the bit where it goes into the big crescendo before the solo is just gives me goosebumps every single time I hear it. So yeah, Power Slave the song as well. Love the sort of Egyptian motif going back to the album cover as well. Singing about Horus. I'm just a big nerd for all of that. So that's great. Aces High, opening with that again, proper sort of patriotic, like wartime historical number to open it up with. That's brilliant. And like you say, yeah, Bruce's vocals just seem to be sort of like rising and rising and rising. Like it's just I don't understand again how he manages to keep up that energy through the whole album, but he manages it. And yeah, and the fact that this sparked off like that monstrous tour that lasted almost what was it, 2 years?
No, it lasted a year, but they did something crazy like close to 200
That's
dates.
right. Yeah. Just shows just how much they had faith in this album and how much they thought that this album was gonna resonate with people. And they just kept on going with it. So yeah, and then back to the artwork, iconic again. I love Egyptology and all that, so that's always a great one to see Eddie in amongst the pyramids. Love a bit of Eddie.
Moving on, we have Somewhere in Time. I think the metalheads are going to come after me for this one, but in my opinion, this is a great album, not a masterpiece.
This is another album where it's over time it's grown on me, and obviously when they've just done the Future Past tour, and they've really shown that album some love. It's very a guitar heavy album. You've also got the introduction of it's not the synth keyboard yet, but it's the synth effect that they introduced to this.
Guitar
Um,
synths. They use
guitar
guitar
synth.
synth. They use guitar synthesizers for this album.
Yeah, which I don't really mind. I think it adds to the atmosphere of the album for what they were going for. They're going for that kind of sci-fi, futuristic sounding kind of stuff, which I love. I wouldn't put it in masterpiece, but I think there's a lot to enjoy on this album. We've just seen Alexander the Great be played for the first time in well ever on the Future Past tour, and that was great. There's a song like Sea of Madness, which I think is borderline thrashy in some points, and I'm pretty sure that Pantera nicked that riff off them as well. Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner is just from a drumming perspective is unbelievable. I think there's Nico's stamina in that song is just too much, man. It's great. Wasted Years is a an iconic song of theirs. Pretty much a set staple now, isn't it?
Like I said, I think it's a great album. If you're a guitar player, this is the album for you. The guitar work from Dave Murray and Adrian Smith is just incredible on this album. Adrian Smith's guitar solo in Wasted Years is probably the best guitar solo he's ever recorded. written
Yeah,
and recorded.
agreed.
I also love the guitar solos in Alexander the Great. Basically, I just love all the guitar solos in this
Yeah,
album
yeah,
as well.
which is yeah, it's a great guitar. Like I say, it's a proper like guitar orientated album.
The production, although I think is good, I think it's just a little bit too in your face for my liking. It just sounds like everything is turned up to 10 in this album, whereas in the previous albums it felt like in each instrument had a little bit of room to breathe. Another bizarre thing I have with this album is that the sleeper songs or the deep cuts on this album are much better than what are considered the hits on this album.
Yeah,
I think Deja Vu is a really underrated track, and I also love Alexander the Great as well.
yeah,
It's a crime it took them this long to play that song live. And Caught Somewhere in Time is one of the better album openers as well. It's probably my favorite Iron Maiden album cover.
yeah. It's very close for me. Yeah, it's between that and Killer. I think Killer's just edges it for me, but yeah, because it's got so many little hidden Easter eggs in it as well. Like going back to Powerslave, and then on the back of the cover, you've got like because they're mostly West Ham fans, aren't they? So you've got them like West Ham 7, Arsenal nil, whatever it is, and then
You
yeah,
got a
you've got
TARDIS there.
artists, yeah, and you've got like the sort of the pyramids from like the Power Slave cover, just like almost just get destroyed by this lightning and all that. So yeah, no, it's there's loads of stuff to admire on that album cover.
Okay, so Somewhere in Time, great album, doesn't quite make the cut for masterpiece. Moving on, we have Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. This is the last album from what you would consider, what most fans consider Maiden's classic era.
Yeah,
This, to me, is the best Iron Maiden album. And for a while it was Power Slave, but the more I listen to this album, in my opinion, has everything that is great about Iron Maiden. From Bruce's vocals, the musicianship, to the lyrics, to production. It's also where they went full on with guitar synths, keyboard synths.
hmm
I'm also a bit of a sucker for a concept album as well.
me too. Yeah,
I love the story that they tell on this album. I love the fact that on certain songs like Moonchild, the opener Moonchild, Bruce gets into the character. That song is sung from the point of view of the devil.
yeah,
Infinite Dreams is, I'm pretty confident in saying it's my favorite Iron Maiden song. The song Seventh Son of a Seventh Son is my favorite Iron Maiden epic. I love
yeah,
how the album ends as it begins with the seven deadly sins.
yeah.
It's
Also,
also it's also not a very long album as well. It's very easy to listen to this album. It's about 44, 45 minutes. So by comparison to what their albums would go on to be, it's very
yeah,
short by comparison. I love this album. I even like the deep cuts I love. Like I love the Prophecy.
yeah,
I love the Clairvoyant, and I love the last song, Only the Good Die Young. I know a lot of people don't enjoy Can I Play with Madness, but I've always had a soft spot for that song. I think Nico's
yeah,
drumming in particular is a standout for that. And whenever I've heard it live, it just sounds great.
yeah.
And I also think it's got great artwork as well. So Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, in my opinion, is not just a masterpiece, but it's Iron Maiden's best album.
No, I agree. Absolute masterpiece. In terms of like my favorite Iron Maiden album, it's between this and one that's going to come later on, which a lot of people will probably feel like, what, really? Even though it is a concept album, you can listen to any of these songs in isolation, and it's the way that it's written is like they could be their own self-contained story as well as part of the wider narrative. So yeah, I appreciate that a lot. I agree with Seventh Son being their best epic. I think it's just so ethereal and atmospheric, and the way that it builds up to that insane solo section at the end. I don't think they've ever really come close to matching that, to be honest with you. Um,
It's the
yeah,
perfect song.
yeah,
It's
no,
just
it is
so good.
masterpiece, masterpiece album for sure.
Masterpiece. Okay, moving on. Iron Maiden followed up in, my opinion, their best album with one of the worst albums of their entire discography. That is No Prayer for the Dying. This album is the debut of Yannick Gears. After Adrian Smith left the band, they recruited Yannick Gears to replace him. I think the whole idea behind this album was for them to go back to their roots. You know, no more big concepts, no epics. We're going to go back to writing, short to the point, metal slash rock and roll songs, akin to the first two albums. But frankly, they failed miserably with this effort. I really don't like this album at all. I would go as far as to say this is my second least favorite Iron Maiden album. If I had to pick some standout tracks, I think Tail Gunner's a decent opener. Holy Smokes is a dumb song, but I kind of enjoy it. It's so bad it's good.
Yeah,
I really don't like Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. The fact that song went to number one, I think, compared to all the other songs that they've written before that,
yeah,
it's just such a shame. I think the version Bruce released on his solo album was pretty good, but
yeah,
Maiden's version, I'm really not a fan of it. And I think Mother Russia's an okay song as well, but outside of that, all this album is so forgettable. It
yeah.
really is. So this
Yeah.
album for me belongs in the terrible tier.
I feel bad for Yannick, this being his first album, because he clearly is like a great musician and a great songwriter, as he would go on to prove. But yeah, not a great start for him. Bless him. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter is one of those ones. It's a naff title anyway. You know what I mean? And yeah, I don't know. I think they were just trying to emulate like more of a sort of rock and roll sound with it. You know, this is probably something that you're going to disagree with me on, but actually, I do like some of Bruce's raspiness on this.
I do disagree with you. I really don't like. I hate that. I hate Bruce's vocals on this album.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's the first time we've disagreed on this whole video. Hey,
Sorry, No Prayer for the Dying. You
sorry for not
suck.
saying. You know what? You know what worries me though is that for their 50th anniversary tour, they're probably going to be playing songs from this album as well. And I'm just like, oh Christ.
Yes, so moving on from No Prayer for the Dying, I'll just point out the 90s was a brutal decade for Iron Maiden
Oh, it
because
was terrible, man.
they followed up No Prayer for the Dying with an album that was, in my opinion, only a slight improvement. This is another album of theirs I don't rate very highly at all. It's not
No.
terrible. I do think it's a bad album, though. If
Yeah.
this song, if this album wasn't called Fear of the Dark and didn't have the song Fear of the Dark on this album, I could almost guarantee you nobody would give it the time of day. Once again, I don't like Bruce's approach to the vocals on this album. I think the production's okay. It's pretty strong.
Bit better, yeah.
Yeah, it is a step up from the last album. This is the last album they recorded with Martin Birch as producer. This is also the last album Bruce Dickinson appeared on for at least 5 or 6 years whenever he eventually returned to the band. I think Be Quick or Be Dead is a really good song. Great
Yeah.
opener to the album. Really heavy. I also think Afraid to Shoot Strangers is a great song as well. I've also got a soft spot for Childhood's End, and of course, Fear of the Dark is one of the best songs Iron Maiden have ever recorded. Although I don't really listen to this version, I tend to listen to live versions. Not terrible. It goes in the bad tier though.
Funny enough, I really don't like Fear of the Dark, the song. Not. I like it live, but yeah, I just don't get the hype around it. That's probably going to get me a lot of hate in the comment section, but I don't care. I think the standout to this album for me personally is Be Quick or Be Dead. I think yeah, it's just a great opener, just high energy. Yeah, like sort of like neck crushing speed. I think it's one of the fastest songs I think that they've written for quite some time as well. Um, Afraid to Shoot Strangers, great song as well.
That is a
Um,
great song.
but they do some weird stuff on this album as well. Like Fear is the Key. That song is just like
Yeah.
it just doesn't sound like Iron Maiden to me.
There's also
Uh,
songs like Chains of Misery, which I can
yeah,
that's it's just they're just not. I mean,
this
hang on.
song also has probably a song that's arguably worse than any of the songs on No Prayer for the Dying is Weekend Warrior. Wait, what the hell was that all about? That was definitely a faux pas, as far as I'm concerned. That was just not great. Yeah, you got you got a ballad on here, Wasting Love, I think it is. Um,
Oh, I completely forgot about that. So, yeah, that I don't rate that song at all.
no, so there's
That's a song that should have been on Bruce's solo album. Okay, Fear of the Dark, bad tier.
yeah,
Sorry for those who really enjoy this album, but it's just not for me. This is where I think we are going to disagree. If there's one album I think we're going to disagree on, it's this one, because I actually quite like this album. This album is the X Factor. This is the first album they did with Blaze Bayley on vocals. They did two albums with Blaze. Blaze Bayley, in my opinion, he's a really good singer, very good singer. His low
yep,
range is really, really strong.
awesome. Yeah.
I love the stuff he did with Wolfsbane. I also quite enjoy some of his solo stuff as well.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't understand why he got the gig with Maiden. It's like, okay, we've got this new singer in. He's very different from Bruce because we don't want to replicate with Bruce. We want to do something different. And we're going to write songs, which this album does, that are tailor-made for his vocal range. But it's almost as if they didn't take into account when you've got to play Run to the Hills, you've got to play Aces High, you've got to play 2 Minutes to Midnight. The Trooper, yeah. I mean, there's footage of this guy. He's literally killing himself trying to sing The Trooper live, and it just
Yeah.
sounds awful because it's just out of his vocal range.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, not that they did this deliberately, but it's almost as if he was set up to fail. It was never ever going to work with Blaze as a vocalist. This album, though, I think has some really strong songs on it. I think The Sign of the Cross is a great song. I think it's one of their best songs they've ever written. I also really like Lord of the Flies. I
Yeah.
really like Man on the Edge. I even like some of the deeper cuts on this album. Like, I love Judgment of Heaven. I also like Edge of Darkness as well. I think Blaze sounds really good on this album because, as I mentioned earlier, the songs were tailor-made to suit his vocal style. I think the production is terrible, though. This is not a very well-produced album. I don't listen to to the original version of this album. I listen to this version on YouTube where a fan has tweaked with the album a little bit.
All
He's
right.
also overdubbed some more guitars on it as well, so the album
Right.
sounds a lot fatter, a lot thicker. So
Yeah.
that's the version I listen to, but I digress. That's not the version I'm critiquing here. I also think the album artwork is not very good as well. I think this is probably the worst Eddie has ever looked. I do think this album goes in the average tier. I think this album's kind of like a precursor for the band they would go on to later be when Bruce returned. A lot of the songs that they wrote during this period with Blaze would later end up being released on Brave New World and Dance of Death, like Blood Brothers, for example, was
Yeah.
a song written during the Blaze era. So I personally hold this album in higher regard compared to most others. So I think it's better than the previous two albums they did with Bruce. I'll say that. I'll say that much. I would put it in the average tier, but feel free to agree or disagree with me.
You'll be surprised. I think it's perfectly fine to go in average as well. I don't really listen to it that often, I must admit, but the songs that you've mentioned, I do like. I think Bruce has made Sign of the Cross into his own, which has made me sort of appreciate that. Obviously, they played it on the Legacy of the Beast tour, and then before that on the Rock in Rio and the sort of surrounding tour with that. I think that's a brilliant song. Lord of the Flies, again, another one. Or it complements his vocal style really nicely. Blazes, that is. But yeah, I'm going back to what you were saying about him being set up to fail. I know what you mean. He clearly has a lower register than Bruce. So why didn't you even try to, I don't know, down tune maybe live? But then the argument is, well, no, he should be the one to sing, blah 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 blah. They shouldn't have to down tune. It's like, yeah, but come on, dude, give him a bit of a break here. Do you know what I mean? Like you've got this, certain register in his voice, and you know he's going to kind of thrive on that level. But then, like you say, you've got him playing, like trying to struggle to sing the Trooper and all the stuff that Bruce is just natural at singing. Do you know what I mean? I don't hate it, so I'm not going to put it on bad, but it's just there kind of thing. So yeah, I think average is perfectly fine.
I'd be quite interesting to hear other people's opinions on that album. I feel like the
Yeah,
fan base has sort of warmed a little bit more to the
yeah,
Blaze era,
yeah.
particularly that album. So I'd be quite interested to hear what other people have to say about it. Now, I gave the X Factor the benefit of the doubt in a lot of areas. This album is their worst album. Virtual 11, this is the second and final album they did with Blaze Bailey. I think the production, if I, okay, let's try and find some nice things to say about it. Future Real, really good song. And
Yeah.
The Klansman, another great song. That's about it. This album has, in my opinion, the worst Iron Maiden song on it as well, that being The Angel and the Gambler. That is a terrible, terrible song. The fact that song is allowed to go on for nearly 10 minutes. I don't know how any of them were sitting in the studio thinking, maybe we should cut this song in half. Someone actually did an extended cut version of it, so they extended the song by like another 10 minutes.
What a legend!
Yeah,
What a legend!
this album for me is terrible. It's their worst album.
Yeah, I haven't really got much to add to that, I'm afraid. Again, again, I feel bad for Blaze because he's a good singer and he seems like a really nice guy.
Moving on, we go from their worst album to one of their, well, what a lot would consider one of their best albums, certainly from this period of Maiden's career, and that's Brave New World. This is the album where Bruce returned on after being absent for about 5 or 6 years, however long it was, and Adrian Smith also returned as well. But instead of ditching Yannick, they kept him on board. And since then, right up until the very last album they released, they remained a six-piece band with three guitar players being in the band.
I think we were talking about this the other day on Messenger about in terms of how important this album was because I think from an
Yeah.
important standpoint, this album had to work, and I think getting Bruce and Adrian back was just a genius move, and I think it's something after the last sort of four albums. I'd argue they needed to come back with a bang, and this is definitely it. I think I really enjoy it. I don't a lot of people really wax lyrical about this album. I think it's slightly overrated, but I think in terms of what it needed to do at the time, it did it with flying colours. You've got the Wicker Man. What an opener that is! I think that's become one of their most sort of iconic songs, like especially with that kind of the trademark Adrian riff at the beginning. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I love seeing it live as well. This is definitely a statement album from them. Like we are back. Keeping Yannick really added another dimension to their sound, which has stood the test of time ever since then, and it's given them more freedom to sort of make their sound even heavier, beefier than it might have been in the '80s. Dream of Mirrors, I really enjoy. I think that's a nice one in terms of epics of the modern era. It's definitely up there. The Mercenary, nice ripper, nice short sort of 3-4 minute sort of ripper kind of. I guess they were trying to sort of emulate the Trooper with it. Obviously not to that level, but there's definitely sort of echoes back to some of the classic stuff with this album. Solid album. Yeah, I personally would put it in uh, either good or great because I think some of the stuff they did after this is better. But I think you have to sort of take into consideration how much of an important album this was to get them back on track. So I think it deserves at least great.
First album they recorded with Kevin Shirley as
Yeah,
a producer, and they've used him ever since. Production-wise, this is a great sounding album. Standout tracks for me are I do like Dream of Mirrors, particularly the second half.
yeah,
The Wicker Man's a great opener. I also really enjoy the title track, Brave New World.
yeah,
Out of a Silent Planet, and the final song on the album, The Thin Line Between Love and Hate, is, in my opinion, one of the best songs Iron Maiden have ever written.
mm,
I just love how that song ends. It's just amazing. Normally, I would put this album in good because I do think it is a tad overrated. I think some of the albums they did after this are better than Brave New
yeah,
World. Due to the importance of this album, it had to work. Probably the most important album they released since The Number of the Beast,
yeah,
because if this album failed, Iron Maiden probably would have been done. Because as mentioned earlier, the 90s was a really tough decade for the band,
yeah,
and they were close to going under. But this album came out, it was a huge success, and the rest is history. They're bigger now than they've ever been in their entire career. So
yeah.
for that alone, I will put it in great. Moving on to the follow-up, we have Dance of Death. This album cover is terrible.
Yeah, it's really like PS2 grade, but even worse.
This is their worst album cover, to the point where I was even considering, do I want to get this album on vinyl because of that god awful album cover?
No,
Artwork aside, I think there are a lot of really good songs on this album.
yeah,
I think Wildest Dreams is a strong opener. I really like Rainmaker. I think the three epics on this album are all really good. So I love No More Lies. I love Dance of Death. I love Passchendaele. I also like the song, I think it's called Lines in the Sand. It's the only time Nico records with a double pedal. I also think Journeyman's quite a nice way to end the album as well. Not a huge fan of the production. It sounds a little bit too unpolished for my liking. Really strong album. I would put it in the good tier.
to go on to your point about the production, I really love that. I've loved the raw sort of just like um, angry nature of the sound of the guitars. I think songs like is it? I'm trying to pronounce this right now. Monseigneur. I think that's really heavy. Like it's a properly like heavy metal song, and I think they've really sort of really honed into that sound on this album because when you go back and listen to Brave New World, obviously yeah, it's more polished, and then you listen to this, it's just got a bit more of brutality in the guitars. I find Bruce sounds great as usual. If anything, I think he sounds better now than he did back on Brave New World. I absolutely adore Passion Day. That's one of my all-time favorite Maiden songs. Again, loving that kind of that era of history, like World War I and stuff like that, and just how it kind of it builds up and builds up throughout the song, but you can just hear the kind of the emotion of that time and that battle. So and that was that's something that they're leaning to even more on the following album. Dance of Death, great epic. I love the kind of folk almost sound to that. It's definitely one of Yannick's best songs, I think, from a writing perspective. As I said earlier, I think he had a bit of a ropey start that wasn't necessarily his fault, but I think they gave him like free rein to just to sort of write.
He is the most underrated songwriter in the band.
For sure, yeah. He wrote some great stuff on Brave New World as well. But I think this is where he really kind of just shines and as he goes on. Totally agree about the album artwork. It's just naff. It's so bad. I want to use much stronger language for it, but I won't. I don't know. Like it does look like, I'm sure this is like a lot of people have said this. It's like cut and paste clip art nonsense.
Bruce despises the artwork for
Yeah,
this album.
yeah, and yeah, quite right too.
But Steve Paul ranked on him. Steve, for whatever reason, really liked it and gave
Yeah,
it the go
well,
ahead. Good. I agree with you. Okay, moving on. Now, this may seem odd to some people, but this album in particular is a very special album for me and Sean.
where to begin, really. I think they took everything that they were building up from Brave New World and Dance of Death, and then they just put it in a bloody meat grinder and thought, yeah, there you go. This is darkness personified for us. But it opens with quite a kind of on the same sort of theme that they're going with openers from Brave New World and Dance of Death. Wildest Dreams, Wicker Man. They had that kind of really sort of upbeat kind of let's kick this off with a bang, and they did that with Different World on here. I think that's one of the best openers, or certainly of the modern era of Maiden albums, I think. And then to go into These Colours Don't Run, it's just I honestly think you could have taken that song and you could have put it on most of their early stuff from the 80s. That I think it fits right into Peace of Mind. You could even put it on Number of the Beast or something like that. It got that kind of feeling for it. I remember at the time, me and Tom, when we first listened to it all the way through, it was kind of at pretty much the same time. We were like, okay, new Maiden album. It was kind of sort of early into well, certainly mine anyway, early into my sort of Maiden discovery.
This album just came out of nowhere, by the way. I had no idea they were working on it.
The reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg for the first time. It was the first song I heard from this album. It was like, I think it was on like Radio 1 or XFM or something like that. It was definitely, it was on like a mainstream radio station, like a music radio station. And I'm like, oh, this sounds pretty heavy. And it was like, holy crap, this is Maiden. This is new Maiden stuff. And I was like you said, Tom, I didn't realize they had even planned another album, because I think I even remember us not long before we heard it, we were waxing lyrical about Dance of Death. We were like, oh yeah, this is great. And then when we heard this, and it was just something clicked, and we were like, right. And when we listened to, I remember we were going through the whole album, listened to it, we're like, wow, that's good. When you go into from These Colours Don't Run into Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, and the way that just starts in a kind of almost like a nursery rhyme kind of way, the way that the Bruce sort of tells the story, and then just kicks in. That is one of the heaviest riffs I've ever heard from Maiden or any band really. But and it's 8 minutes, but it doesn't really feel its length, if that makes sense, because it goes into that proper kind of classic Maiden gallopy part in the middle. and they really hone in on the sort of the history of like the atom bomb and the dangers of it and stuff like that.
This
Uh,
album is full of epics.
oh
There's
yeah,
like I think 7 out of 3 of the songs on this album you would consider epics.
yeah. And then you get For the Greater Good of God, and I think I remember we were both talking to each other, literally as soon as we finished listening to this, and it was just like, whoa, where did that come from? Steve, are you all right, mate? You know what I mean? And it was just like the whole theme behind it being like, what is what is religion? Why we're being led down as like a certain path with it. You have all these wars being fought over religion, but
It doesn't come across as preachy though.
they tell a story with it. It's almost like this album. It feels like it's not a concept album, but it's definitely got a running theme going through it of like war and destruction and the sort of the dangers of blindly
I
following.
I know the band don't, but in my head canon, if you will,
Yeah,
I consider this a concept album. The
yeah,
songs, or it's a bit like when you listen to Metallica's "And Justice for All" album.
yeah,
All the songs on that album follow like quite a similar theme to each other. So
yeah,
in that sense, you can make that argument it's a concept album. The topics surround the human condition,
yeah.
war, religion, all of those things are related to each other.
Yeah, I mean, and they nail it with the album title, "A Matter of Life and Death," because it is. It's like you couldn't really have got a better title for this album than that. Our first ever Iron Maiden gig was when they played this album from start to finish, and at first, because I remember us singing our
We were
first,
so mad about
we
that
were
at
so
first.
salty about it, weren't we? Lots of people were like, "Oh, come on, why are you playing the whole new album?" And then obviously you listen to it and you think, oh, I know why they played the whole of this album live because it's a special, special album. I would put it in masterpiece, but I can understand if you don't because it's okay. It's not on the sort of iconic levels of some of those albums, but personally for me, it's a masterpiece. Sorry.
You've kind of reminded me just how good it is in my opinion, and I'm guessing your opinion as well, because this is what this tier list is about. This ranking is about. It's about our opinions.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it is a masterpiece. It's as close to a masterpiece as you can get. There are some songs which I can take or leave. Like I'm not the biggest fan of Out of the Shadows, and
Yeah, fair.
I do disagree with you a little bit on Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. Even though I do enjoy that song, I do think it does go on just a little bit too long. I think the album cover is amazing.
Oh, love it.
Really, really good album cover. A huge step up from the
Oh,
one
yeah.
that came before it. And I also think Kevin Shirley's production and mixing on this album is the best out of we'll call it, refer to it as the modern era from Brave New
Yeah.
World right up until
Yeah.
Senjutsu. This album sonically sounds amazing. So yeah, that goes into a masterpiece. We'll probably get people adamantly
Well, people,
disagreeing with
yeah.
us about
I've
it.
seen I've seen a lot of ratings putting that far lower than masterpiece, and I'm like, well, again, it's all about opinions, but like I say, that just struck a chord with me like at the time, and it's never really gone away, to be honest.
Okay, moving on to the Final Frontier. In my opinion, I didn't like this album at all when it first came out. I know Iron Maiden were touting this as, oh no, we're trying something really different. You'll be very surprised when you hear this album. Bar than the opening sort of triggered drum kit thing that they did, for the opening track on the album, I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
really
not
hear
that.
anything new. I will say this, the production's really good. The artwork is okay. I'm not a huge fan of the Eddie. I mean, it has grown on me a little bit. I don't think it's a bad album. I think that's a bit unfair, but I do think it's a very average album. It's not one I go back and listen to, save a few songs here and there. Talisman, I really like Mother of Mercy. That's really grown on me.
Yeah,
And I think, what's it called again, Sean? The Man Who Would Be King? Is that what the
man,
song?
yeah, man, it would be king. Yeah,
Yeah, that's another good song. Good Dave Murray song, that.
yeah.
I don't really have anything else to add about this album.
I really Phantom menaced this album at the time, and what I mean by that is I really, really wanted for it to be great, and I almost tried to convince myself that it was great. And just because of how much of a high I made, how much of a high A Matter of Life and Death left me with. Again, it's grown on me over time. I liked a few of the tracks quite a lot, when it first came out. Like you say, the Talisman for me is again another Yannick classic as far as I'm concerned. It's great. Bruce's vocals on that are just scorching on there. Great drumming. I know you don't like this song, Tom, but I do quite like Where the Wild Wind Blows. I'm not going to say it's their best epic by any means, but I think you could.
I am not a fan of that song at all.
I know it's not. I think it was their best charted album for years, if not since the 80s, I think, anyway. So I think a lot of that is they were riding high off like the Somewhere Back in Time tour. So I think that definitely helped. The one song that I really don't like is Starblind. Doesn't really ever get going for me for some reason.
I think this is the first album where Bruce starts to show some fatigue with his voice.
Yeah,
Sorry, Bruce, if you're listening. And you could tell, like, some of those higher notes, he was really having to strain a little bit more than he did on the previous three albums he did with Maiden.
yeah.
So where should this go then? We both agreeing on average.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, I don't think it's a bad thing. There's some songs on there that I like, but I can't put it on the same level as like Dance of Death.
Okay, so moving on, we have the Book of Souls. This is Iron Maiden's first double disc album. Yeah, in my opinion, this was a big step up from the previous album. I think there's a lot of really good songs on this album. I think If Eternity Should Fail is one of their best album openers. I think this is also the only song they've recorded which they've played in D. So all of Maiden's songs are in E standard, but I think this song they play in D, and it's a Bruce Dickinson song. Um, Great opener. I love The Speed of Light. I also love The Great Unknown. I think The Book of Souls is a great song, probably my favorite song from the Book of Souls album. Even though I didn't quite like it that much at first, Empire of the Clouds has, their longest song, by the way, has really, really grown on me. I'm not a huge fan of the album cover. I think the Eddie's okay, but just to be put on a flat black background doesn't really do anything for me. In regards of songs I don't particularly like Man of Sorrows. I don't like that song at all. I also don't really like Tears of a Clown either, even though I'm a big Robin Williams fan.
Mm.
Steve Harris wrote that song about Robin Williams. And I know a lot of people really like The Red and the Black. I can really take or leave that song. You know, I'm a bass player. Steve Harris is one of my biggest influences. I don't think, I really don't like that acoustic bass intro. It sounds
Oh
very
yeah.
sloppily played. I would have just completely removed that entirely and just gone straight into the riff or done something else. That's a song that really feels its length for me.
I personally would put it in great, but I think we could sort of have a trade off and put it in good. Like you say, I think this was a real return to form. Not that they had really fallen out of form, but I know like a few times we'd seen them live before this album and tour. It was really kind of hit and miss when they were touring this album, The Book of Souls, and it was just yeah, they're back. Just like Brave New World for us, they were back. I think in a lot of ways, the sort of the way that the album and some of the songs are written, especially like the Book of Souls song itself, for me that could have easily been on Powerslave. It's got that kind of sort of tribal, ethereal. Okay, it's about the Mayans, so it could have fit onto that album. I think it's got a lot of similar beats to that. I agree. I think If Eternity Should Fail was one of their best album openings of all time. Let alone just like in this, I think yeah, the lower tuning really serves that song well.
Bruce's songwriting on this album is amazing.
Oh God, yeah.
He wrote
And
so many good songs that ended up on this album.
yeah, and the fact that he wrote this and then he wrote The Empire of the Clouds by himself, like he literally completely, like the way going on to Empire of the Clouds, the way that he basically wrote that by just playing a bit of piano and it all came from that. And he just, yeah, I just bought like a cheap piano from a random music store and I just started playing around with some stuff. And then I think he was saying Steve was like, no, it was actually Nico. Nico was one that really helped him out with this because he was like, do that bit again. And then it kind of just all built up from there. Man of Sorrows and Tears of a Clown. I agree with you, mate. They're probably the two songs that I listen to the least on this album. I can understand what they were going for with Tears of a Clown. I can understand the sentiment behind it. But yeah, I just couldn't really get into it. I know they started playing the tour of this album with that song, and then they switched it to The Great Unknown for the UK tour, and I'm really glad they did because I really enjoy that song.
I remember there was a lot of talk about Lady Gaga at this time because I remember she was doing a lot of interviews, and she was talking about how much she loved heavy metal, in
Yeah.
particular Iron Maiden. A tweet was shared by her. She tweeted out that she woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning so she could be one of the first people to hear Iron Maiden's new album.
Oh, really? Fair play.
And it just made a lot of people go, "Who's this?" A lot of her fans go, "Who's this Iron Maiden band?" And they all went to check it out.
yeah.
Yeah. Because this album did commercially, again, quite well for them, even though it was a double disc album. The reason why I am a bit reluctant to put it in great, I really don't think this needed to be a double disc album. I
No, no, I know
think
what you mean. Yeah.
if they would have gotten rid of those two songs that we don't particularly like, and maybe just got rid of one more, then I think you would have around about nine, maybe 10 songs on the album. You know what? Considering it kind of, because I remember I was a bit down on Maiden during the whole Final Frontier era. Like you said, we saw them live a few times, and yeah, I was sort of like, I don't know if Maiden are quite the band they used to be for me at that time. But when the Book of Souls came out, I took to this album really strongly. I listened to this album a lot. So I think in that sense, I'm happy to put it in great instead of good.
Nice.
Okay, the final studio album, and it's a little bit up in the air.
Will it be their final album? Who
It
knows?
could be their final. I think they will do another album, but the
Yeah.
big question is, will Nico McBrain record on this album? Because I know he's retired live, but it's still a little bit up in the air on if he's going to be still recording albums with the band. Senjutsu is a weird album. I enjoyed it when it first came out. I think it's kind of falling in the average category for me now. I probably would, if you would have asked me this question maybe about 6 months ago, I would have put it in good. But outside of songs like Death of the Celts, which is probably the only song I go back and listen to on this album, and Hell on Earth, the final song, I don't really listen to any of the other songs on this album. I do like the album cover though. I think Samurai Eddie looks amazing.
Oh yeah, badass.
But
Yeah.
Senjutsu, it's kind of like another Iron Maiden album. Not a bad album, but certainly not one I go back and listen to that often.
Pretty much there with you, mate. I think I'd probably I like it. I think it's good. I think I'd put it slightly higher than average. It doesn't really get going for me until well, I mean, you've got Days of Future Past. For me, that's where it really starts to pick up a bit because
Mm.
I think that's a great Adrian Smith number. Yeah, the writing on the wall. I didn't really like it at first, but it has grown on me over time. The Time Machine. I thought that was pretty good. That's another good Yannick song. It's got a nice sort of catchy gallopy riff in the middle.
Yeah, I think this is an album we're going to have to sort of agree to disagree on. It sounds like you're leaning to more towards good. I think because we put Book of Souls in great, because I
Yeah,
was leaning more towards good. I think Senjutsu should be kept back in average. I don't really hear many people talking about this album anymore, even though it's their latest album. Can we agree? Average?
yeah, yeah. That works for me.
Average then. And there you have it. That was our album's ranking list for the mighty Iron Maiden. Do you agree or disagree with our picks? Let us know in the comments section. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who will disagree with some of the placement of some of those albums, but we're
That's what
really
it's all
interested.
about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We're really interested to hear what you have to say. So let us know in the comments. Sean, do you have anything else to say?
No, thanks for watching and joining us on this journey of music ranking and all that sort of fun jazz. It's been a long time coming. We've been wanting to do this for a little while now, with other things getting in the way. So what are you saying, Tom?
What I'm saying is, everyone have a good day and see you in the next
listen,
video.
listen to I Made.
Listen to Iron Maiden.